नमो ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I hope all you are doing well. Today we will be reading from the book Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 6. Topic is How to Discharge Devotional Service. The book is Nectar of Devotion, chapter 6. The topic is How to Discharge Devotional Service. So before we begin, let's pray first. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृतं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So let's begin. Please listen very carefully. Srila Rupa Goswami states that his elder brother Sanatan Goswami has compiled Haribhakti Vilasa for the guidance of the Vaishnavas, and therein has mentioned many rules and regulations to be followed by the Vaishnavas. Some of them are very important and prominent, and Srila Rupa Goswami will now mention this very important item for our benefit. The purport of this statement is that Srila Rupa Goswami proposed to mention only basic principle, not details. For example, a basic principle is that one has to accept the spiritual master. Exactly how one follows the instruction of his spiritual master is considered a detail. For example, if one is following the instruction of the spiritual master, and that instruction is different from the instruction of another spiritual master, this is called detailed information. But the basic principle of acceptance of spiritual master is good everywhere. Although the detail may be different, Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into the detail here, but want to place before, but wants to place before us only the principle. He mentioned the basic principle as follows: accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. This is number one. Number two, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. Three, obeying the order of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. 4. Following the footstep of great Acharya, teachers under the direction of spiritual master. 5. Inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. 6. Being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality Godhead Sri Krishna. This means that when we engage in the devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something that we may not like to give up, and also we have to accept something that we may not accept to like. 7. Residing in the scared place of pilgrimage like Dwarika and or Vrindavana. 8. Accepting only what is necessary and dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. 9. Observing the fasting day on Ekadasi. 10. Worshipping scared tree like banyan tree. These 10 item are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service and regulative principle. In the beginning, if a neopath devotee observe the above mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make a good advancement in Krishna consciousness. The next set of instruction is listed as follows. One should rigidly give up company of non-devotee. One should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. Number two, one should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. Number three, one should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temple or monasteries, monasteries. Four, one should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealing. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealing. 6. One should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. One should not disrespect the demigods. One should not give necessary trouble to any living entity. One should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. One should carefully avoid various offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshipping the deity in the temple. One should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna or his devotee. And number 10 point is very important. One should be very intolerant towards the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna or his devotee. Without following the above mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate himself to the platform of sadhana bhakti or devotional service in practice. Towards the Srila Rupa Goswami mentioned 20 items, and all of them are very important. Out of 20, the first three, namely accepting the shelter of bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation from him, and serving him with respect and reverence, are the most important. The next important item are as follows. Number one, one should decorate the body with tilaka, which is a sign of the Vaishnava. The idea is that as soon as a person sees this mark on the body of the Vaishnava, he will immediately remember Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that a Vaishnava is who, when seen, remind one of Krishna. Therefore, it is essential that Vaishnava mark his body with tilaka to remind other of Krishna. In marking such tilaka, sometime one may write Hare Krishna on the body. Number three, one should accept flower and garland that have been offered to the deity and the spiritual master and put them on one body. Four, one should learn to dance. One should learn to dance before the deity. Four, one should learn to bow down immediately upon seeing the deity on the spirit or the spiritual master. Six, as soon as one visits the temple of Lord Krishna, one must stand up. As soon as one visits a temple of Lord Krishna, one must stand up. 7. When the deity is being borne for the stroll in the street, a devotee should immediately follow the procession. In the connection, it may be noted that in India, especially in the Vishnu temple, the system is that apart from the big deity who is purportedly situated in the main area of the temple, there is a set of similar deity that are taken in procession in the evening. In some temple, it is the custom to hold the big procession in the evening with a band playing and a nice big umbrella over the deity who sit on decorated throne on the cart of palanquin which is carried by devotee. The deity come out onto the street and travel in the neighborhood while the people of neighborhood come out and offer prasada. The resident of the neighborhood all follow the procession. So it is very nice scene. When the deity is coming out, the servitor in the temple put forward the deity's account before them. So much was the collection, so much was the expenditure. The whole idea is that deity is considered to be proprietor of the whole establishment, and all the priests and other people taking care of the temple are considered to be the servant of the deity. This system is very, very old and is still followed. So, therefore, it is mentioned here that when the deity is on stroll on the stroll, the people should be follow behind. A devotee number eight, a devotee must visit Vishnu temple at least once or twice every day, morning and evening. In Vrindavana, this system is followed very strictly. All the devotees in town go every morning and evening to visit different temple. Therefore, during this time, there are considerable crowd all over the city. There are about 5,000 temple in Vrindavana city. Of course, it is not possible to visit all the temple, but there are at least one dozen very big and important temple which was started by the Goswami and which should be visited. 9. One must circumambulate the temple building at least 3 times. In every temple, there is an arrangement to go around the temple at least 3 times. Some devotee go around more than 3 times, 10 times, 15 times, according to their vows. The Goswami is to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. One should also circumambulate the whole Vrindavan area. 10. One must worship the deity in the temple according to the regulative principle, offering arati, prasada, decorating the deity, etc. This thing must be observed regularly. 11. One must render personal service to the deity. One must sing. 13. One must perform Sankirtana. One must chant. One must offer prayer. Number 16. One must recite notable prayer. 17. One must taste Mahaprasada, food from very food from the very pallet offered before the deity. 18. One must drink Charanamrita, water from the bathing of the deity, which is offered to guest. 19. One must smell the incense and the flower offered to the deity. 20. One must touch the lotus feet of the deity. 21. One must see the deity with great devotion. 22. One must offer arati at different time. 23. One must hear about Lord and his pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and similar books. 24. One must pray to the deity to for his mercy. 24. One must pray to the deity for his mercy. 25. One should remember the deity. 26. One should meditate upon the deity. 27. One should render some voluntary service. 28. One should think the Lord as one's friend. 29. One should offer everything to the Lord. 30. One should offer a favorite article such as food or a garment. 31. One should take all kind of risk and perform all endeavor for Krishna's benefit. 32. In every condition, one should be surrendered soul. 33. One should pour water on the tulsi tree. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and similar literature. 35. One should live in a scared place like Mathura, Vrindavan or Dwarika. 36. One should offer service to Vaishnava devotee. 37. One should arrange one devotional service according to one's mean. 38. In the month of Kartika, October, November, one should make arrangement for special service. 39. During Janmashtami, the time of Krishna's appearance in the world, one should observe special service. 40. One should do whatever is done with great care and devotion for the deity. 40. One should release the pleasure of Srimad Bhagavatam reading among devotee and not among outsiders. 41. One should release the pleasure of Srimad Bhagavatam reading among devotee and not among outsider. 42. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. 43. One should chant the holy name of the Lord. 44. One should leave jurisdiction of Mathura. Now, Now, the total regulative principle come to aggregate 64 items. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10 regulative principle, then come the secondary 10 regulative principle, and added to these are 44 other regulative principle. So altogether there are 64 items for discharging the regulative practice of devotional service. Out of 64 items, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among the devotees, Sankirtana, and living in Mathura, are very important. The 64 item of devotional service should include all our activity of body, mind and speech. As stated in the beginning, the regulative principle of devotional service enjoys that all of our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. Exactly how they can be thus employed is described in the above 64 item. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami will give evidence from different scriptures supporting the authenticity of many of these points. Here we concluded the Bhaktivedanta purport for the day. Now let's jump into the insight. We have made a separate video presentation and audio podcast for you, and we are attaching the both of it in the end of original video. So stay tuned. Please watch till the end. You will get the better insight. Hare Krishna, and thank you very much.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down something pretty remarkable, a complete step-by-step blueprint for a life of devotion. So let's just start with a big question, right? If you really wanted to build a life dedicated to spiritual practice, from the ground up, what would that roadmap even look like? Where would you even begin to find the instructions? Well, believe it or not, the text we're looking at today aims to be exactly that. It's not so much about getting lost in tiny little details. Instead, think of it as the architectural blueprint, the big foundational principles that support the entire structure of a spiritual life. And that number is 64. Yep, according to this guide, there are 64 core principles, and together they form this really comprehensive system. Okay, so let's dive in and see what this is all about. Okay, so here's our plan. We're going to look at the overall spiritual roadmap, then lay the foundation, see how to deepen the practice, talk about engaging all your senses, and finally, we'll get to the 5 most essential pillars. Let's get started. All right, first up, the spiritual roadmap. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's get a handle on the big picture. What's the guiding philosophy here? What are all these principles even for? Well, the goal is to achieve something the text calls sadhana bhakti, which basically means devotional service in practice. And this is a really powerful idea. The goal is to elevate a practitioner to a stage where all of their activities, body, mind, and speech, are engaged in service. We're talking about turning every single part of your life into a conscious act of devotion. So where do you even start with something that big? Well, the text lays out what it calls 10 preliminary necessities. This is literally the foundation, the bedrock you build everything else on. So you've got things like accepting a spiritual master, being initiated and obeying their orders. Then following in the footsteps of great teachers, inquiring about your own spiritual advancement, and a big one, being prepared to give up material things. You can already see the logic here, right? It's about setting up that core structure. But here's where it gets interesting. The text makes it very clear that not all of these are created equal. It actually zooms in on the first three, saying they are by far the most important. And here they are. 1. Accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. 2. Become initiated. And 3. Obey their orders with faith. The whole system really seems to hinge on these three things. It's like this is presented as the non-negotiable, absolute start of the entire journey. Okay, so once that foundation is laid, the system starts to add more layers. Let's move on to the next section and look at 10 more principles that help deepen the practice. Now, this next set of 10 is all about, refining your focus and your conduct. There's a lot here, like avoiding the company of non-devotees, not building super expensive temples, and not trying to read too many different books. But it's also about your internal state, right? Like avoiding getting too down about loss or too excited about gain. It's basically about making sure your practice stays pure and doesn't get sidetracked by a million different distractions. All right, so that's the first 20 principles, the foundational stuff. Now we get to the really hands-on part. The next 44 principles are all about engaging the senses and putting this whole thing into action. And this is absolutely crucial. The point of these next 44 items is to make sure this isn't just some abstract philosophy you think about. No, this is a list of real, tangible things you can do to involve your entire body, your mind, and your speech. It's about making devotion a lived, daily experience. And they get really specific. For instance, there's a quote here, "One should learn to dance before the deity." It's a perfect example of how the body is engaged through a very direct, physical expression. And check this out. One must smell the incense and flowers offered to the deity. I mean, how detailed is that? It shows that even your sense of smell gets activated, connecting a simple physical sensation to a spiritual act. This level of detail is brilliant. Obviously, we can't go through all 44, but you get the idea. And, super important, this practice isn't just something you do alone. It extends outward. The text says, one should offer service to Vaishnavas, or devotees. So it's about getting involved with the community through real acts of service. The whole goal is to build a completely immersive environment. Okay, so we've got the first 20 foundational principles, plus those 44 practical activities. That gets us to 64. But then after laying all of that out, the text concludes by highlighting the 5 most powerful, the most important principles of them all. And these 5, these are presented as the absolute core of the entire practice. You can think of them like the pillars of the whole thing. They are worshipping the deity, hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with other devotees, sankirtana, or chanting, and, if possible, living in a holy place like Mathura. It's like the text is saying, even if you can only do a little, make sure you do these. So when you step back and look at the whole thing, from the foundation to the daily activities to those 5 essential pillars, what you have is a complete and holistic system. It's designed to transform literally every aspect of life into devotional service. It's pretty amazing. And really, that brings us right back to the central idea. The whole point of this really detailed 64-part system is right here in this quote. The regulative principle of devotional service enjoins that all of our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. Every single sense, every action, it all has a place. And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We've just walked through one very detailed blueprint for a meaningful life. So the question for you is, what principles create the foundation of your life? What does that blueprint look like for you?
Now we completed the video presentation. Let's begin with audio podcast.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your curiosity and, well, transform it into clear, actionable knowledge. Have you ever thought about a spiritual path having like a really clear blueprint, almost architectural? Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, a pretty comprehensive set of principles for devotional service, not just guidance. It's more like a detailed framework for personal transformation.
That's right. We're looking at a fascinating text today, 64 Principles of Devotional Service. It was compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami, a really revered scholar. You can think of it as this ancient, intricate roadmap for cultivating what's called Katanta consciousness. It's a structured journey, really, designed to, profoundly reshape one's spiritual life.
Okay, so our mission today isn't just listing these principles, right? We want to pull out the deepest nuggets of wisdom, understand not just what they are, but really why. Why were they put forth? What surprising insights do they offer? And how do they give us this practical framework for a life of devotion? It's about making this ancient wisdom feel accessible, relevant to you, no matter your background. So let's unpack this initial framing first, because it feels quite important. Srila Rupa Goswami, you mentioned, he drew heavily from his elder brother Sanatana Goswami's work, Hari Bhakti Vilasa. But right away, he makes this crucial distinction, doesn't he? He's deliberately focusing on the basic principles, kind of stepping back from getting lost in all the tiny details.
Exactly. And what's really striking there is that strategic decision to sort of zoom out. Imagine building a house. You start with the blueprints, right? The foundational principles. You don't kick things off by arguing about the precise shade of paint for a small room. The text makes it clear accepting a spiritual master, for instance, that's a core principle, universally good. But how exactly one follows that master's specific instructions day to day, or, the subtle differences between traditions.
Ah, okay, those are the details.
Those are considered the details. And this approach, it allows for a broad foundational understanding. It stops you getting bogged down in specifics that, honestly, can and do vary quite a bit.
That's a really crucial distinction, yeah. Like understanding the operating system before getting lost in every single app's manual. So for us and for you listening, it means we're exploring the core philosophy, the main building blocks, making it accessible, clear, rather than getting stuck in endless minutia that might only apply sometimes. Okay, with that foundation set, let's dive into the first set. 10 crucial items. The source calls them preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service.
Basically, the entry-level stuff, right? The first steps for someone just starting out. And the very first one sets a really profound tone, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. What's the significance there? Why is that the absolute starting point?
That's a great question because it really is the bedrock, the foundation. In this tradition, accepting a spiritual master isn't just finding a teacher. It's about connecting to a living link in what's called a disciplic succession, a lineage of authentic guides. And that term bona fide is key. It implies someone, deeply learned in scripture, fully realized, and capable of transmitting genuine spiritual knowledge without any personal agenda. It's a formal commitment to a guided learning process, recognizing that self-study, it often isn't enough for this kind of deep transformation.
Right, so it's more than just intellectual instruction. It's a deeper spiritual mentorship. And that flows right into the second point, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning devotional service directly from them. So is initiation like a formal entry? It's a sacred vow kind of thing?
Precisely. Initiation, or dika, marks a formal spiritual commitment. Yeah, it often comes with vows, maybe a specific spiritual name, symbolizing a kind of new birth into spiritual life. It signifies the master accepting the disciple, and just as importantly, the disciple accepting the master's guidance. From then on, learning devotional service isn't just theory. It becomes practical, disciplined education right under the master's guidance, a bit like an apprentice learning from a skilled artisan.
Yeah, I can really see how that structure creates accountability, a clear path. The third and fourth points build on this, obeying the spiritual master's orders with faith and devotion, and following in the footsteps of great teachers, the acharyas, under the spiritual master's direction. Can you explain who these acharyas are? Why is their example so important?
Certainly. Acharyas are, they're exemplary spiritual teachers. They teach not just by word, but by their perfect conduct. They are the ones who genuinely practice what they preach. They embody the principles. So following in their footsteps isn't just intellectual agreement. It's about emulating their discipline, their character, their devotion. It gives concrete examples for a new devotee to aspire to learn from, all under the direct supervision of their own spiritual master. It kind of removes the guesswork, offering proven paths.
That sounds incredibly practical, having a living example to follow. And then the fifth point is inquiring from the spiritual master about how to advance in Kanta consciousness. This suggests an active role for the disciple, yeah, not just passive obedience.
That's right. It's meant to be a dynamic relationship. The disciple isn't expected to just blindly follow along. They're encouraged to inquire, ask questions, questions rooted in a genuine desire for deeper understanding and progress. It shows intellectual engagement, a real thirst for knowledge. It makes the journey personal, deeply understood, not just rote learning.
Okay, so these first 5 really hang together around that guru-disciple relationship. And the source highlights them, you said, as the most important in this initial list. But then things shift a bit. The 6th item, being prepared to give up anything material for Kunsta's satisfaction. The text clarifies this means accepting what you might not like and giving up what you might not want to give up. That sounds like a pretty radical shift in perspective.
It is, yeah, and it's quite profound. This principle isn't really about asceticism just for the sake of it. It's more about reorienting your desires, cultivating a kind of detachment from material outcomes and offering your efforts, your possessions, with a devotional attitude. It means prioritizing spiritual growth over maybe personal comfort or worldly attachments. So, for example, if a devotee is used to a certain luxury, giving it up for a spiritual cause, that becomes an act of devotion, a test of sincerity. And conversely, if a duty is unpleasant but it's necessary for devotional service, accepting it gracefully also fits here. It's all about cultivating this inner freedom from what material life dictates.
Reframing sacrifice not as loss, but as an act of love, of commitment. Okay. Following that, number 7 suggests residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage, like Dwaraka or Vrinavana. Now, for many people listening, that's just not practical. So what's the essence here for someone not living near a pilgrimage site?
That's a very practical point. While physically being in a place like Vrindavana, which is so deeply tied to Caithness pastimes, is considered highly beneficial, the underlying principle is really about creating a sacred environment wherever you are. This could mean, dedicating a specific space in your home for worship, or surrounding yourself with spiritual reminders, books, images, or just cultivating a spiritual mindset that sort of transforms your immediate surroundings into a place that supports devotion. It's about consciously choosing an environment that helps your spiritual goals.
That's a great interpretation for today's world. Makes sense. And then number 8, accepting only what is necessary, or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. This sounds like a call to simplicity, right?
It is, very much so. This principle, it's known as Yukta Vairagya. It encourages a balanced approach. It's not about rejecting the material world completely, like becoming a total renunciate. But it's about using material things judiciously, only to the extent they support your spiritual life, without getting entangled in excessive buying or indulgence. It's about finding freedom through conscious moderation, using what you need without becoming sort of enslaved by wanting more.
That feels like a principle many of us could apply. Okay, number 9 is observing the fasting day on Ekadasha. For listeners who aren't familiar, what exactly is Ekadasha?
Right, Ekadashi. It's a specific day that comes twice a month. It's 11 days after the full moon and 11 days after the new moon, based on the Vedic lunar calendar. On this day, devotees typically fast from grains and beans. Some might do a full fast. The intention is to purify the body and mind and really increase spiritual focus. The ancient texts suggest this particular day is especially potent for spiritual practice, allows for a deeper connection, maybe accelerated spiritual benefit. It's a structured discipline, really, to align with a specific rhythm and intensify your efforts.
Fascinating. A cosmic rhythm tied to spiritual practice. And finally, the 10th preliminary necessity, worshiping sacred trees like the banyan tree. This seems very connected to nature.
It absolutely connects devotion to the natural world. The banyan tree, for instance, holds deep symbolism in Indic traditions, represents longevity, vastness. It can even be seen as a manifestation of the divine. So, worshiping such a tree is an act of acknowledging the sacredness that's inherent in creation, recognizing the divine presence in nature. It's a tangible reminder that spirituality isn't just stuck inside temples. It permeates all of existence, encourages reverence for life itself.
And if you observe these 10 things, the text makes this powerful promise. Surely he will quickly make good advancement in consciousness.
That's a pretty strong incentive. A clear cause and effect, wouldn't you say?
Indeed. It offers a direct pathway,
Yeah.
almost like a spiritual formula for progress, especially for those who are really earnest in their first steps. It suggests that if you sincerely adhere to these foundations, you'll see tangible, maybe even rapid spiritual results. Okay, so we've laid out what to actively embrace. But just as important, maybe even more challenging sometimes, is knowing what to temper or rigorously avoid. Our source then outlines another set of 10 instructions. These are crucial for Sadhana Bhakti devotional service and practice. Let's get into these. The first one is rigidly giving up the company of non-devotees. Now, that sounds quite exclusive.
It certainly can sound that way, yeah, if it's misinterpreted. The key word is rigidly. Rigidly. It's not really about being aloof or, unkind to people. Rather, the instruction advises against intimate association with those who are actively, maybe even aggressively, averse to spiritual life. People whose values and conversations might just pull you away from your path, especially when you're developing. It's like a protective measure, like a gardener shielding a young sapling from harsh winds. The intent is safeguarding your spiritual focus, not fostering intolerance or cutting yourself off from society.
That nuance is really important, yeah.
Yeah.
Discerning influence is not just shutting people out. The second is not instructing a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. Why hold back if someone isn't interested?
Well, this speaks to the wisdom of not casting pearls before swine, as the saying goes.
Wow.
Spiritual knowledge is considered sacred, and if you offer it to someone who has absolutely no desire for it, no reverence, it can be misunderstood, easily disrespected, or maybe even lead to offense. It's really about respecting the free will of others and waiting for genuine receptivity, making sure these valuable teachings land with those who truly seek them.
That makes a lot of sense. Respects the knowledge and the person. And this next one really jumped out at me, not being very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries.
Right, yeah.
That seems almost counterintuitive for a religious path, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can you unpack the intention there?
That's a fantastic point, and it highlights a crucial nuance about motivation in this path. It's absolutely not a ban on building beautiful places of worship. Many traditions, including this one, have magnificent temples. It's more a caution against becoming overly enthusiastic, to the point where the focus shifts away from genuine devotion towards just the grandiosity of the building itself, or maybe the pride tied to building it. It's about making sure the intent stays pure devotional service, not self-aggrandizement or seeking recognition or letting material spending overshadow the inner spiritual work. The real temple, in many ways, is the devotee's heart.
Oh, okay. Less about the bricks and mortar, more about the spirit behind it. Got it.
Yeah.
Following that, the fourth point, not trying to read too many books, nor developing the idea of earning a livelihood by lecturing on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Again, too many books seems a bit odd.
Right. It ties into that previous point about pure motivation. Not reading too many books is a caution against, intellectual pride. Or becoming a scholar just for the sake of gathering knowledge without actually applying it. Or worse, turning spiritual wisdom into some kind of commodity. The goal here is devotional service, so reading should always fuel that devotion, lead to inner change, and not become an end in itself that distracts from the core practices. And making a living solely from lecturing sacred texts is cautioned against because it can easily lead to maybe diluting the message, or compromising its sanctity for money rather than delivering it out of genuine spiritual concern.
Quality and intent over sheer quantity or making a business out of it. Makes sense. The fifth item, not being neglectful in ordinary dealings. This seems to be about maintaining a balanced life.
Precisely. Devotional service should enhance, not detract from, your responsibilities and interactions in the world. It's about spiritualizing your mundane duties, actually. Being neglectful in ordinary dealings, whether it's family, work, basic etiquette, it would suggest a lack of integrity and imbalance. A devotee is expected to be a responsible, upstanding member of society, demonstrating how spiritual life can elevate all parts of existence.
That really speaks to the integrated nature of this path. Next, not being under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. Sounds like cultivating equanimity.
It is indeed. This principle encourages mental steadiness, a state of mind where you're not overly disturbed by the ups and downs of material life success, failure, pleasure, pain. By grounding yourself in cup consciousness, the aim is to see both gain and loss as temporary, ultimately under the divine will. That way you maintain inner peace, focus on your spiritual goal, rather than being constantly tossed about by external events.
A profound psychological insight there. Okay, seventh, not disrespecting the demigods. Who are the demigods in this context, and why is this caution important?
Right. In the Vedic pantheon, you have demigods like Indra, Brahma, Shiva, powerful celestial beings who manage various aspects of the universe under the Supreme Lord. They are revered, definitely, but they are distinct from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kathyo. So the caution here is, don't disrespect them, they're respected entities, but also don't mistakenly elevate them to the position of the supreme worshipable object. It's about understanding their proper place within the whole spiritual hierarchy.
So, respecting the entire spiritual tapestry without mixing up the roles.
Okay.
Eighth, not giving unnecessary trouble to any living entity. This points to a deep ethical consideration.
Absolutely. This is a foundational ethical principle. It emphasizes compassion, nonviolence, ahesa toward all beings, recognizing that the divine spark is within every living thing. And unnecessary trouble highlights a deliberate effort to minimize harm, to live harmoniously with all forms of life. It reflects the inherent interconnectedness of everything.
A truly universal ethical stance there. Ninth, carefully avoiding various offenses in chanting the holy name or worshiping the deity. What kind of offenses are we talking about here?
This is a really significant aspect of the practice. In chanting the holy name, like the Harikatana mantra, and in deity worship, there's specific etiquette, specific reverential attitudes expected. Offenses can range from, say, blaspheming the Lord or his devotees, to being inattentive during chanting, to thinking the holy name is just some material sound vibration, or maybe engaging in sinful acts, thinking the chanting will just cancel it out. The emphasis is on approaching these sacred acts with utmost sincerity, respect, and a pure heart, really understanding their spiritual power.
So it's about the intention and the reverence behind the actual practice. And finally, the 10th point, which again sounds quite strong, being very intolerant toward the blasphemy of king or his devotees.
Right. This instruction, yeah, at first glance, it might seem to contradict maybe the earlier point about not instructing the unwilling or even the general spirit of nonviolence. But the context here is very specific. Blasphemy. It implies a deliberate, malicious, unwarranted attack on the Supreme Lord or those dedicated to him. It's not about stifling respectful debate or genuine questions, not at all. Rather, it's about a devotee feeling a natural, sort of spiritual intolerance towards outright malicious trashing of the sacred. Because it wounds their heart and tries to undermine the path itself. It's a defense of the object of their devotion, not really an endorsement of aggression.
Okay. Defending the integrity of the path and who you're devoted to. It's interesting how, just like the previous set, the source explicitly re-emphasizes that out of these 20 items combined, the first 3 from the preliminary list, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation and serving him, still remain the most important. It's like the absolute bedrock of the whole system, isn't it?
It truly is. Those initial 3, they established the fundamental relationship, the framework for everything that follows. Without that strong foundation of guidance and commitment, the other practices, well, they're beneficial, sure, but they might lack the cohesive structure and the deeper purpose needed for really profound advancement.
Okay, now we get into the heart of daily devotional life. This vibrant tapestry woven from another 44 activities, engaging all our senses, body, mind, speech. This paints a remarkably detailed picture of what it means to live a life steeped in devotion. Let's start with some of the more visual, community-oriented practices. The text suggests decorating your body with tilaka-specific marks, and even sometimes writing harikant on the body. What's the purpose behind these external symbols?
Yeah, this is a wonderful example of integrating spirituality right into everyday life. Tilaka are these clay marks, often made from earth from a sacred river or place, applied to specific points on the body. They symbolize the devotee's consecration to Kalina and act as a constant reminder of their spiritual identity. The idea, as the text explains, is kind of multifaceted. It reminds of the devotee themselves, right? It also reminds others who see it of Kalina, and it signifies their allegiance. It sort of transforms the body into a temple, a visible representation of their internal commitment. It's a powerful act of self-identification and a kind of public declaration.
Wow, like a living billboard of devotion, both for yourself and others. And here's a really interesting cultural detail the text talks about. The practice of following deity processions. Can you describe that scene?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine yourself in a vibrant Indian town, maybe somewhere like Vrindavana as evening comes. From a temple, a set of smaller, beautifully adorned deities, representations of the Lord are carefully placed on this elaborate palanquin or chariot. There's a lively band playing, devotees chanting, a big ceremonial umbrella shading the deities, and this procession then winds through the streets. Locals come out of their homes, offering prasada food that's been offered to the deities and flowers, joining the chanting, following along. The source even mentions temple servitors presenting the daily accounts before the deity, literally considering the deity the proprietor of the whole place. It's a complete fusion of spiritual and practical life. Very communal, very ancient system that just makes the divine presence feel tangible in the everyday.
Wow, that paints such a vivid picture. It's not just a ritual. It's a living, breathing community event, bringing the divine right into the streets. It really shows how devotion isn't just stuck in an isolated act in a temple. It integrates into the whole fabric of daily life, involving community, senses, even practical stuff like administration. And the text mentions places like Vidavada having maybe 5,000 temples, with devotees visiting morning and evening. That really brings to life just how pervasive this practice can be, a whole way of life.
It absolutely does. It underscores how every part of life, from how you adorn your body to civic engagement, can be spiritualized. It fosters this constant awareness, transforming mundane routines into chances for diversion.
The list keeps expanding. It includes visiting a Vito temple at least once or twice daily, apparently strictly followed in places like Vindavana, lots of crowds. Then there's circumambulating the temple building at least 3 times. The source notes some devotees even walk around the entire Vrindavana area, or even go over Hana Hill. What's the significance of walking around?
Circumambulation or parikrama, yeah. It's an act of reverence. You walk clockwise around a sacred object, could be a deity, a temple, even a holy hill. It symbolizes placing the divine at the center of your existence and moving in humble submission around it. It's a meditative act, physically expressing your devotion and seeking blessings from that sacred object or space. And the scale varies, yeah? From a few steps around an altar to miles around a holy place. Each one is a physical showing of dedication.
That's a beautiful way to center yourself, physically. The practices also involve directly worshiping the deity with offerings like arati and prasada and rendering personal service. Could you describe arati for us and tell us more about prasada?
Sure. Arati is this beautiful, very sensory worship ceremony. It involves offering various items, lamps, incense, water, cloth, flowers to the deity, often accompanied by singing, chanting. It's a way of expressing love and reverence through all the senses, really. And prasada, which we touched on, is maybe one of the most significant concepts. It's food that has been offered to the deity with devotion. It's considered spiritualized, blessed by the Lord's acceptance. So eating prasada isn't just eating food, it's a spiritual act, believed to purify your consciousness, help you advance spiritually.
So food itself becomes a vehicle for spiritual growth. That's a powerful daily connection. And the practices extend to sound, singing, performing Salkirtana, that's the congregational chanting of the holy name, chanting individually, offering prayers. For those unfamiliar, what makes Sankirtana so significant?
Sankirtana. It's a cornerstone of this path, especially considered potent for this age. It's the public, congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names, typically the Harkan mantra, often with musical instruments, drums, cymbals. It's considered a powerful and joyous way to connect with the divine, purify the heart, and share spiritual bliss. It's both personal and communal. It can really transform the atmosphere, lift the consciousness of everyone involved. The sound vibration itself is seen as spiritual.
That sounds truly uplifting, a shared experience. The senses are further engaged through tasting Mahaprasada. The text clarifies this is food from the very plate offered before the deities, and drinking Karanampa, the water from their bathing. What's the distinction there?
Mahaprasada and Karanapa. Right. Mahaprasada is considered exceptionally sacred because it's the remnants directly from the Lord's own plate. It signifies an even deeper level of divine acceptance and blessing than regular prasada. And karnamat, literally the nectar of the feet, is water, sometimes mixed with milk, yogurt, honey, that's been poured over the deity's feet during the bathing ceremony. Both are taken by devotees with great reverence, believed to bestow profound spiritual purification and benefits. These are quite intimate acts of partaking in the divine.
That really brings a heightened sense of sanctity to those offerings. And the sensory engagement keeps going, smelling incense and flowers offered to the deity, even touching the lotus feet of the deity. Hearing is also crucial. Hearing about the Lord and his pastimes, from scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita.
Exactly. These acts engage the remaining senses, smell and touch, directly in devotional service. Every sense becomes a channel for connecting. And hearing about the Lord, Shravanham, is considered foundational. Scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita aren't just old texts, they're seen as direct revelations, divine knowledge, pastimes. They provide the philosophical bedrock and the stories that inspire the whole path. Hearing them attentively from a qualified source is believed to cleanse the heart and really deepen your understanding.
So it's not just passive listening, it's active, engaged reception of sacred wisdom. The list also includes meditating on the deity, thinking of the Lord as one's friend, and offering everything to the Lord. This suggests a very personal, intimate relationship with the divine as possible.
It absolutely does. Devotional service isn't just external rituals, it's deeply internal too. Meditating on the deity cultivates that constant inner connection. Thinking of the Lord as a friend or a beloved fosters an intimate personal relationship, goes beyond just formal worship, and offering everything your actions, thoughts, even the results of your work transforms all parts of life into acts of devotion. It's a complete surrender of the ego, really, and an embrace of divine will.
It's a profound shift in perspective, yeah. Other practices mentioned include performing voluntary service, taking risks for Turtana's benefit, being a surrendered soul in every condition, pouring water on the Tulasi tree, arranging special services during months like Kartika or festivals like Yanmakami. What's special about the Tulasi tree in these specific times?
Right. The Tulasi plant, or holy basil, is revered. Considered a pure devotee of the Lord, deeply sacred in this tradition. So worshiping it, like pouring water, is an act of devotion to Kinta through his beloved plant. As for Kartika, that's a particularly sacred month in the Vedic calendar, usually October-November, highly auspicious for spiritual practices. And Janmanimi is the celebration of Kampa's appearance day, a major festival full of special worship, fasting, joyous celebration. These specific times and entities, like Tulasi, are considered especially potent for spiritual practice. They're believed to amplify the benefits of devotional activities.
So certain times, certain parts of nature are thought to have this amplified spiritual energy. Okay. And finally, the list emphasizes relishing Bhagavatam reading among devotees, associating with more advanced devotees, and, of course, chanting the holy name and living in a sacred place like Mathura or Vrindavana.
Yeah, this brings us kind of full circle. Associating with devotees, especially those more advanced, is seen as crucial because spiritual progress is significantly helped by good company, shared purpose. Reading scriptures together fosters collective understanding, inspiration, and living in a sacred place like Mathura or Vrindavana, as we talked about, constantly immerses you in an environment saturated with spiritual energy and reminders. These practices, altogether, they're designed to engage every facet of your existence, transforming even mundane actions into acts of devotion. It's about building a consistent, conscious relationship that permeates every moment, a truly holistic system.
So, wow, we've explored this huge range of practices, 64 distinct items in total. It's truly a comprehensive system designed to employ all our activities, body, mind, speech, in the service of the Lord. And from this rich tapestry, Srila Rupa Goswami then distills the essence even further, doesn't he? Highlighting 5 items as being very important, almost like the anchor points for the whole system.
That's right. Out of everything we've discussed, these 5 get special emphasis for their profound impact. First, worshiping the deity. This connects the devotee directly to the divine form, very tangible. Second, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. This provides that essential philosophical and narrative understanding, the why and how. Third, associating among the devotees. That offers community, support, shared spiritual growth. You're not alone. Fourth, Sautartana, the congregational chanting of the holy name. Powerful, joyous, accessible devotion. And fifth, living in Mathura or Vrindavana, a sacred place, creating that immersive, spiritually charged environment.
Yeah, those 5 really seem to capture the essence of an engaged devotional life, don't they? You've got personal worship, deep scriptural study, supportive community, collective practice, and a sacred environment. And it's all grounded in scriptural authenticity, too, with Srila Rupa Goswami providing evidence from different scriptures for each of these key points.
Exactly. What we've really seen in this deep dive isn't just a list of rules. It's a meticulously structured path. It starts with those foundational principles, guides you on what to cultivate and what to maybe temper, and then expands into this rich tapestry of daily integrated practices. It's about spiritualizing every aspect of life, body, mind, speech, guided by ancient wisdom, supported by community, fueled by personal commitment. It moves beyond just intellectual understanding to practical, transformative application.
These principles, yeah, though they're ancient, they offer this remarkably profound framework for developing a spiritual life. They emphasize the power of intention, the critical role of community, and the huge benefits of integrated practice, not just passive learning. So what does all this mean for you, our listener? Here's something to maybe mull over. Consider this provocative thought. If an ancient spiritual path offers such a structured, deeply integrated, and comprehensive set of principles to cultivate a specific consciousness, how might applying a similar methodology, a similar structured approach to your own areas of learning or personal development or even professional skills, how might that unlock unexpected levels of understanding and growth for you? Think about these ideas. Structured mentorship, discerning influences, focused daily practice, engaging all your faculties, finding supportive community. How could they apply to whatever you're passionate about pursuing? Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.